So you shifted the burden, and the reason that the EPA was created, the reason the Clean Air Act was passed, was to deal with the very issue of liberty you're dealing with.
Why should you have two?
So are you therefore
why should you have two sets of rules? One, prior restraint on every economic matter, but I'm not allowed to have prior restraint on your TV program. It's the same principle.
No, Congressman. Look, the First Amendment is different. We all appreciate that. Speech is something sacrosanct.
See, we as freedom lovers don't see the difference. We believe that individuals' property rights are the same as speech rights. You can't have two kinds of rights. That's just what happened. But you endorse the status quo of all the conservative and liberal arguments today because you think there's economic rights over here and political rights over here.
Anyway, let's switch gears.
Your solutions on stopping drug trade is give up. Give up the war on drugs. I say zero tolerance. We use the military for aid. We stop it from getting into the country. We cut it off at the source. Why give up another fight?
What we give up on is a tyrannical approach to solving a social medical problem, and we endorse the idea of voluntarism and self-responsibility, family, friends, and churches to solve problems, rather than saying some monolithic government is going to make you take care of yourself and be a better person. It's a preposterous notion. It never worked. It never will. The government can't make you a better person. It can't make you follow good habits. Why don't they put you on a diet? You're a little overweight. And I think there are protesters in jail. There are protesters in jail. There is something wrong. There is something wrong with this system. With this system. We are the 99%. We are the 99%. We don't need her. We don't need her.
Do you feel better? Anyone that suggests that Iran is not a threat to this country or is not a threat to stability in the Middle East is obviously not seeing the world very clearly. He sees it exactly the way that Barack Obama sees it, that we have to go around and apologize for the fact that we've gone out and exerted our influence to create freedom around the world.
Congressman Paul, 30 seconds.
You've heard the war propaganda that is liable to lead us into the sixth war, and I worry about that position. Iran is a threat because they have some militants there. But believe me, they're all around the world, and they're all around the world, and they're not a whole lot different than others. Iran does not have an air force that can come here. They can't even make enough gasoline for themselves. And here we are, building this case out, please. They're building up this case just like we did in Iraq. Build up the war propaganda. There was no Al-Qaeda in Iraq, and they had nuclear weapons, and we had to go in. I'm sure you supported that war as well. Yeah. Okay. It's time we quit this. It's time. It's trillions of dollars we're spending on these wars.
Fairly normal, but you're not out there waving signs against
I do not.
Same-sex couples.
I believe in values, but I do not believe in using force to put those values. I don't believe in using force to make you a better person for your own sake, but I don't believe in putting force on you to make you more responsible economically. I apply the rules equally to social justice and economic justice. I don't understand this division, why you may defend social liberties rather well, but as soon as it comes to me spending my money and assuming responsibility, I see, well, why don't you apply?
If you are consistent, you're the only one that I know.
And we don't change anything. If we got in this trouble because we had low interest rates, getting businessmen and savers to do the wrong thing, just doing more of the wrong thing continuously, I can't see how this is going to be helpful. My question to you, Mr. Chairman, is this. What will it take for you to say to yourself, could I be wrong? What if I'm mistaken? How long is this going to go on? $9 trillion? What if, say, in 5 years from now, we're in a deep, deep slump with your definition of inflation? What if we have high prices going and the economy is very, very weak and unemployment is high? Would you say to yourself then, boy, maybe I really messed up. Maybe I was on the wrong track. Maybe the free market people were right. Maybe Keynes was wrong. Would you ever consider that, or are you absolutely locked into your beliefs?
I'm always open to changing my mind when the facts change, absolutely.
What would you do? In other words, saying what you don't think should happen has a value to a point, but in reality today, what do you think the American politicians and bankers ought to be doing?
I wouldn't pretend that pouring kerosene on
But
the
you started
fire
with I
is
wouldn't. I'm
working.
sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted you to start it with I would.
Okay, what I would do is allow the liquidation of debt to occur. You want the people to spend more money in buying up assets. You want these assets priced in the marketplace so we know what their values are. That's why that first package of
But no one in the market will do that. As you know,
then there's
want
no
that
value
too.
there. That's a good information. Then there's no value. Why should you dump that on the American taxpayers? That's a strong message that if it's worthless, you don't dump it on the taxpayers.
But that's backwards
That's why
looking.
our slump is getting worse.
How do you get this country?
Thank you, Governor Romney. That raises the question, if you were President of the United States, would you need to go to Congress to get authorization to take military action against Iran's nuclear facilities?
You sit down with your attorneys and tell you what you have to do, but obviously the President of the United States has to do what's in the best interest of the United States.
Did he need it?
We're going to let the lawyers sort out what he needed to do and what he didn't need to do.
Congressman Paul, do you believe the President needs authorization of Congress to attack strategic targets in Iran, nuclear facilities?
Absolutely. This idea of going and talking to attorneys totally baffles me. Why don't we just open up the Constitution and read it? You're not allowed to go to war without a declaration of war. Now, as far as fleeting enemies go, yes, if there's an imminent attack on us, we've never had that happen in 220 years. The thought that the Iranians could pose an imminent attack on the United States is preposterous. There's no way. This is just war propaganda, continued war propaganda, preparing this nation to go to war and spread this war not only in Iraq but into Iran unconstitutionally. It is a road to disaster for us as a nation. It's a road to our financial disaster if we don't read the Constitution once in a while.
Around the horn, Congressman.
That's called my way or the highway.
Oh, come on. But my way or the highway? So you're criticizing Bernie Sanders for saying it's his way or the highway?
No, I'm talking about legislation.
Well, no. I mean, you pass legislation because you bring people together. Right. I can't see how you could write it off so casually.
No, you're saying no compromise. So I
made my point. Do you think I should compromise on the First Amendment? On property rights, on your property rights? Should I sell your house because a businessman wants it and he can pay more taxes? Why don't you want somebody to stand on principle? Why?
Another question about electability. Do you have any, sir? There's always the question as to whether or not you are in fact viable. Your differences with the Republicans with the rest of the Republicans on this stage has raised questions about whether or not you can actually win the Republican nomination, sir.
Well, we've only had 2 little primaries so far, so it's pretty premature to decide which one is going to be the candidate. But, you know, when you think about it, if you measured everything I've ever said, every vote I've ever taken against the Constitution, you know, I'm a strict constitutionalist. Are you suggesting the Republicans should write me off because I'm a strict constitutionalist? I'm the most conservative member here. I have voted, you know, against more spending and wasting government than anybody else. So you're suggesting that I'm not electable and the Republicans don't want me because I'm a strict fiscal conservative? Because I believe in civil liberties? Why should we not be defending civil liberties? And why should we not be talking about foreign policy that used to be the part of the Republican Party? Mr. Republican Robert Taft didn't even want us to be in NATO. And you're saying now that we have to continue to borrow money from China to finance this empire that we can't afford? Let me see if I get this right. We need to borrow $10 billion from China, and then we give it to Musharraf, who's a military dictator who overthrew an elected government, and then we go to war, we lose all these lives promoting democracy in Iraq. I mean, what's going on here? And you're saying that this isn't appealing to Republicans? Where did this come about? I think this is a Republican message. I defend the platform. It used to say we got rid of the Department of Education. It doesn't say that. Now, we as Republicans went and doubled the size of the Department of Education. So where have we gone? I think we've lost our way. And then the insinuation that I am less Republican because of that?
Congressman, thank you very much.